start off, before you can pitch anybody something, you've got to get a meeting. And we've been pitching together for about 12 years. And we've gotten meetings through all sorts of different ways. We're currently, our guild is on strike against our agent and all agencies. So obviously, an agent, if you have one, or if you can get one, is a big resource in getting a meeting. But this is actually an interesting time, since we don't have an agent anymore. We still are always hustling, and so it's good to go to events and to meet people. In fact, we got a job one time. We went to a panel discussion where there were some producers talking about something, I don't remember what, but afterward we went up and talked to them and introduced ourselves and said, hey, blah blah blah, we have this log line idea. And she was interested, and then we had a follow-up meeting, and we got a writing project out of it. So I think that's one thing is, and this is basic stuff, but don't be afraid to just go up and talk to people, and to have a really crisp, sharp log line, elevator pitch, or whatever you want to call it, ready to to pitch in at a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would say the same thing. You have your concept for a feature or for a series that you're really excited about. Boil it down into something you can pitch in just 20 or 30 seconds, so that when you do have a conversation with someone who might be interested in your material, you can get their attention really easily. Also, as often as an in-person meeting, that log line will be something that you email to someone. So, let's say that you did meet somebody through a friend or at some kind of an event, and you got an email address and they said, yeah, sure, send me an email and we'll connect. You might be sending that log line via email. So it should be something nicely polished up that that you can put in your email and send off to them. And and so your log line, you want to have it contain the most essential facts about your work. The title. You don't want, untitled Brian and LeeAnne project. You want it to have a nice title. Also, you'd like it to very quickly explain who the target market for the material is. So we usually do that by saying in the vein of, and giving a couple of comps, because that's a more interesting way of explaining who this is geared for. So we, for Dwight, we might have said it's Dwight in shining armor. It's a 30-minute family adventure comedy series in the vein of the Adams family. So something like that just immediately they go, oh, okay, I get it. They're talking about a TV show. They're talking about a short TV show. It's geared toward families and kids, and it's going to have a tone that's sort of like the Adams family. So that gets you there really quickly. In just a few words, you've expressed a lot about what your show is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important to always be out there hustling, and to be ready, at a moment's notice to have something engaging that you can pull out, and grab your listeners' attention. So that's the first step, is getting the meeting. Then we prepare very extensively for pitch meetings, and what we usually do, we write out our pitch, and we like our pitches to be from 10 to 15 minutes, 15 max, usually 10 to 12, because you don't want them to get bored, obviously. So we write out the pitch, and then we actually put it on cards, and we split it up into parts. So LeeAnne will have her part, I'll have mine, and then we actually have the cues on the cards. So she'll say, and then a mysterious cloaked figure comes around the corner, and that's my figure. That's my cue to pick it up and say, like, yeah, and blah blah blah. And so we play off each other, and then we go over our pitches incessantly. I feel like we're kind of kind of OCD about it. We're pretty much memorized. by the time we get in the room. We usually do take our cards with us, but we almost never. Well, we're never reading them. We're almost never reading very much of them. We'll just have them there to glance down. But it's performance art in a way when we get in the room, and then we also. When we started in this business, the sort of um, the general wisdom was don't take any visuals, but that's changed, and maybe I'll let LeeAnne say how we've changed that significantly.
Yeah, yeah. It used to be, our agent said 10 years ago, no, 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 you just want it to be your words. You don't take any visuals with you. That felt like a 90s strategy that wasn't working 10 years ago.
Yeah, it felt a little at the time. It felt gimmicky.
Yeah. However, we've now been doing this long enough to see that return in popularity. So it's not the way that it was in the 90s where you might have brought in a stack of photographs that kind of gave a mood or a tone. Now you want to have what's called a concept deck or a mood board that you bring with you. Now, this is not a requirement. I want to emphasize that. You certainly don't have to do this.
Well, and we should also say we're always the pitchers. We're very rarely the pitch. Oh, wait, yeah, we're the pitcher. We're very rarely the pitchees. So this is our strategy that works for us. We don't know for sure if this is what everyone else has done, and we spend a lot of time in the advertising world, and we've sort of taken the tricks we've learned, pitching on commercial projects, going in with these visuals, and we've just adapted it to pitching for screenplays, and it's worked for us. But I actually don't know if other people do stuff like
Well,
this.
yeah, I just anecdotally, as we've met with producers and we've had a pitch deck or a mood board or a concept deck, we have they've commented that, oh yeah, we'd love to see your deck. So it does feel like we're part of a trend toward doing that. So but it's certainly not a requirement. It just helps. Anything that you can do to help your audience to really quickly grasp your intention for the story, it's all to the good. And what a concept deck and a mood board can do for you is capture something that's really difficult to capture in words, and that's tone. So if you've got some visuals that really help to capture the tone of your work, then a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we will create the mood board or the concept deck. They're kind of blended together, and it's everything that you would like your audience to know about the visual tone of your story. So you might say, oh, my protagonist is a lot like a young Michael Cera. And so you'd get a picture of Michael Cera being very tonally Michael Cera. And you'd plot that in there and say he's kind of like this. Or the world of my show is very dystopian and dark. So you'd have images that you've pulled that sort of reflect what you mean by that. And you'll use the this concept deck in conjunction with your pitching to talk your audience through the story, from the characters to the world to what it looks like. Are there key locations that are really important to the story? Have some mood images for what those places might look like. Everybody knows that this is just intended to convey mood and tone, and so you're not trapped into any of these images, but they really do help to tell your story.
Right. And it goes without saying that this is a professional document in a professional situation, so it should look really good. Now, neither LeeAnne nor I is a graphic designer or graphic artist, but we've spent a lot of time trying to learn. We usually do these in Keynote or PowerPoint, uh, and if it's I know money is always an issue, but if it's a really important pitch, we actually pay a graphic designer or graphic artist to help us put together. We'll grab all the images, we write all the text, but we actually just paid a graphic artist, and it wasn't cheap. I think it was around $800 by the time she was done. But she put together a beautiful deck and organized it in a way that we neither one of us has the skills to do. And obviously, we gave her the input and gave her direction as we went along. But I feel like the kind of first rate beautiful presentation that she helped us put together was worth it. $800 is a lot of money. Unless you sell a TV show off of it, then it's a tiny amount of money. So that's something to think about also.
Right. Brian and I have the advantage too that there's two of us. And so we're able to make our presentation quite dynamic. If it's just one of you going into the room all by yourself, then that's another place where your concept deck can help you out a little bit so that you don't feel like you're floundering all by yourself. It's something you can return to and flip through the images that your audience can engage with. It's helpful. Again, though, most important is that you convey this story succinctly and in a way that's exciting. And your deck, as beautiful as it is, if your story isn't well thought out and well put together, it won't save you. It's not a crutch.
Okay, so we talked about getting the meeting, preparing the meeting, and then in the room, pitching. I think we've covered pretty much our process. The last step, of course, is follow up, and that can be a little tricky. You don't want to pester your audience, especially uh, you know development executives get pinged a lot, and you can cross the line, but you should follow up. And what we've done, over many years, we always send at least one follow-up email and say, thank you very much for the time. It was so great to talk to you about blah blah blah, and you have such a cute dog, Fluffy, whatever. Try and just make it personal and engaging in the follow-up. And then we also, obviously we keep a list that's now hundreds of people long of everyone that we've pitched to, and we keep little notes from the meeting. So then when we go back, which, if you're in this business a long time, it happens. In fact, this is happening to us right now. Someone we pitched to, I think it was seriously like 7 years ago, is now one of the heads of development for Apple's new new TV endeavor. So now we've been put back in contact with her, and I have in my files like, oh hey, it was great to talk to you about your dog Fluffy, that sort of thing. Just those little things help. And then from time to time, dropping a line, again, without crossing the line of becoming pestering, I think is important, because you never know when they're gonna need something like what you got.
Yeah. So that follow up, that initial, just really nice, thank you for your time email. We usually send that the next day, the next morning, and then a follow up about um, do you have any thoughts on this or whatever it was. Oh, I'm going to back up for just a moment. Before you leave from the pitch, you should have next steps established between you and your audience, something you're going to do. If your meeting ends without next steps established, then it's almost a guarantee nothing's going to happen. You need to have something that you're going to do next. If they say, yeah, this is interesting. I would like to talk to my team about it, and we'll get back to you. Okay, fine. What can you do in the meantime? You need to be very clear. Like, all right, I'll get back to you next week then, or I'll send over that revision that we talked about. And this again gets into personal preference. Some writers emphatically do not want to leave anything behind in the room or send any of their material via email after the meeting. Brian and I send everything, or until recently, send everything through our agency. And so we feel very comfortable sharing what we've already verbally shared in the room. But that's our preference. And I'm certainly not going to say that it's the right or wrong way to do it. It's just we have a comfort level with that. But if they have said, oh, I'd like to see this or that changed, or I'd like to know more about your protagonist, or then you'd say, great, we'll make those changes and we'll send it over to you. It gives you some measurable action to take instead of, well, thanks for listening to our pitch, we'll talk to you later. Like that's very disempowering. So there should be some intention set at the end of the meeting with very specific next steps that you can follow up on. Then usually you want to give an executive 2 weeks. That's sort of the standard of how much time is polite to let people mull over what you've shared with them. So give them the 2 weeks, just calm yourself down, give them the 2 weeks, and then follow up. And if you're going to send them over, some sort of revision or request another meeting, you would do it at that time.
Right. Yeah. And of course, like LeeAnne said, that's after the initial follow up, which we always do the next day. So I think that covers the points of pitching. A few other maybe housekeeping items would be, be on time, and that's tricky. We live in Los Angeles, and the traffic is horrible. We live, in the suburbs of Los Angeles, so the traffic is bad. But I can honestly say, in the literally hundreds of pitch meetings we have had, we've only been late one time. It still ticks me off, but we're always super early. And again, that's maybe OCD, but especially in a big city, you have to allow time for traffic. You have to allow time for figuring out parking. You have to allow time to navigate the elevators and get your ID checked in at the receptionist desk. All you have to allow time for that. So be early. Don't be late. That's just obviously you're starting off with a deficit. So, um,
Oh,
oh wait,
but expect that they will be late.
good point. Yes, they will be late.
You will sit for a while, and you will have gone to tremendous effort to be there on time, and you will cool your heels for a while. Usually, don't let it miff you. Don't let it throw you off or put you in an antagonistic mood. It's all fine. Just calm yourself down and go in there with a big smile and with a confidence and gratitude that you have this chance, and just let all of your goodwill come out of you. Don't let anything ruffle you if they're late.
That's true. We've been kept waiting sometimes ridiculous amounts, but it's not about that. You're on time. It doesn't matter if they are. And then also, like LeeAnne said, have a big smile. Be excited to be there. Actually I've seen a couple of pitch meetings while we were waiting for our turn. I remember this pitch meeting where the guy was pitching. He seemed so bored and so flustered. The guy who was pitching, not the guy who was listening to the pitch. So, slap a smile on, be excited to be there, be friendly, and all that stuff. It really does matter. So anyway, wow, that's a brain dump.
Are you still there,
Wow,
Chuck?
man, that was 200% gold. That was
All
all
right.
amazing. Holy cow.